Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Louisiana Film Prize 2020 Best Actress Nominee Roundtable. I'm so excited to be joined here today by 12 amazing performers who are adding so much to this festival and did so much to bring characters to life in these top 20 films that are vying for this $25,000 cash prize. And just as a reminder, the voting for both the films and the acting nominations closes tomorrow night, Sunday, October 11th at 11:59 p.m. So if you haven't watched the films or you're still partially the way through, now's the time to start planning. You have just under 36 hours to get that watching and voting completed. But without further ado, I want to welcome to the stage the many these actresses who have brought these characters to life. And I'm going to allow each one of them to introduce themselves, tell us who you are, where you're from, and which film that you were a part of today. We'll start with Lorna Dobson.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I'm Lorna Dobson. I am originally from Shreveport, but I'm in New Orleans now, and I'm with Untitled Post Baby Project.
Thank you so much. Darby.
Hi, I'm Darby Taylor. I'm originally from Arkansas, but now I live in Oklahoma, and I like to make movies in Shreveport, and I'm here for Value In.
Fantastic. Gail.
Hi, I'm Gail Cronauer. I've lived in Dallas, Texas so long, I guess this is where I'm from, and I am in Suzanne Rath's Baked Potato Night.
Thank you so much. Maggie.
Hi guys, I'm Maggie Crosby, and I am so proud to be from Shreveport, Louisiana. Right now I'm living in the Pacific Palisades in California, and I'm honored to play Becky in Becky's Big Catch.
Thank you. Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Santamond. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised, and I am in Ronnie.
Thank you. Alicia.
Hi, I'm Alicia. I live in New Orleans. I'm originally from Mississippi, and I play the mom in Stuck in the Middle.
Thank you. Hillary.
Hi, I'm Hillary. I'm representing Greens Alley, and I'm here from Shreveport.
Thank you. Terry.
Hey, everybody. I'm Terry Weibel. I'm the actress in Nice to Meet You, and I am from Little Arnaville, Louisiana.
Fantastic. Hannah.
Hey guys, I'm Hannah Papazan. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I'm in the film Thin Slicing.
Thank you. Betty.
Hi y'all, I'm Betty Edelman. I live in Shreveport, and I was fortunate enough to be Nina in The Gazebo, which was written and directed by Barry Larson.
Thank you. Adela.
Hi, I'm Adela Gauthier, born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, but lived in Galveston, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, and various other places. I'm in Miss Blue, where I had the honor to portray Ms. Blue.
Wonderful, thank you. And last but not least, Hattie.
Hello. I miss it. Do I just say what I did and which film I'm from?
Who you are, where you're from, and your film.
Where I'm from, okay. So my name is Hattie Haggard Gobble. I'm the director of Strangers in the Stall, and I'm originally from Plano, Texas, but I'm currently living in Cambridgeshire, England.
Fantastic, thank you so much. I want to start, I've got a row system here that I'm gonna work on, but I want to start with Hillary Frazier and your turn in Greens Alley. And I want to talk a little bit about the development of that character with Abby Kruger, the director. How involved were you in shaping that character? And I'm truly interested in the research that you did in order to portray such a person who is homeless and also has either some mental issues or substance issues. So if you would just kind of roll us through that.
I'd like to think that she doesn't really have mental issues per se. I think she has more of an interesting perspective that a lot of us kind of take for granted. And I think that's kind of a big kind of a big focus of the film in and of itself, is being able to see these people that we wouldn't otherwise, not think twice about, and understand that they have different ways of thinking. As far as the development of the character goes, it was really Abby's kind of baby, the whole entire film in and of itself, and the character in and of itself. Really, I just kind of put myself into it and kind of imagined, okay, if this is me in this role, what would I be doing at this point? How would I be feeling? How would I be thinking? How would I be interacting with the spaces around me? So I would say I did probably minimal research, but I did a lot of putting myself into the character and trying to figure out how I myself would be in that position, if that makes sense.
Sure. And what was the hardest part of kind of coming up with that perspective and position? And was there a challenge in trying to make sure that was conveyed on screen given the limited dialogue?
Yes, actually, I would definitely say there was. I think out of everyone here, I probably have the least acting experience. I haven't acted in several years, actually. So it was interesting trying to jump back into that. But yeah, definitely trying to make sure that I was able to kind of emote the character and put myself into that character was definitely a challenge, because with minimal dialogue, you kind of just have to rely on, facial features and, the surrounding environment. So it was definitely hard, but I was willing to take up the challenge.
Understood. Thank you for that. And talking about unique perspectives, I'd love to talk with Alicia Johnson about the unique perspective that her character has in Stuck in the Middle, as someone who is dealing with who has a biracial child. I know that this character comes from the director Eva's own experience as a parent, but I wondered if you would maybe give us some insight on how you came onto the project and how you were able to communicate with Eva about that character and portray it on screen.
Well, Eva and her son actually wrote this script. It was from 3 instances that they experienced in raising her son, who's biracial. She just reached out to me in the middle of COVID and said, "We're going to try to make a film. I'm going to send you a script." And I read it and loved it. And we had a tiny little crew, and we shot in a school here in New Orleans. And as far as the character goes, I'm a mom of 3, so it wasn't much of a stretch for me, to be honest, to jump into Mama Bear mode.
Well, and I wondered if, obviously we're in a very tense time in the country. There are a lot of fears that are out there that have led to, what's interesting is I've done some research on specifically on immigration issues, which I know that this film isn't about immigration, but you see the kind of casting of the other into a place where the bullying is not, if not encouraged, kind of allowed, and it's hard to understand what these kids are going through. But I love the perspective of the parent and the child being in the same space, and at the end kind of bringing it to a place where you're having this argument between 2 adults, but at the end of the day, this child is stuck in the middle, to kind of use the term of the film. What do you think about the challenges that people are facing out there in the world, and what do you hope that this character in this film kind of brings to that discussion?
I hope that the perspective that Eva was so good at portraying about the child was that the child doesn't really understand what the adults are talking about. He's just sort of drifting off, looking out into space when the adults are arguing. And then when she comes back, I don't know if you saw after the credits rolled, the scene that we added about what could have happened if there was another child that reached out to just give him a piece of gum and to sit with him. And that's what I hope people see the most, is so they can teach their own children to be kind to everyone. And it really starts there, regardless of what the adults are arguing about.
Absolutely. And, this issue of the other and the acceptance and the kind of growing a loving community is something that feeds also into a topic that is a part of another film, which is Ronnie. And so if I could, Melissa, you're portraying a character that is described herself in the film as feeling obsolete. Could you kind of describe the character that you were able to build with Justin LaCalamita, and how that kind of folds into today's society?
Yeah, well, I was, I feel like somewhat fortunate. I guess you could look at it either way, but I felt like Justin had a very, very strong idea of what he wanted this character to be, because her reaction and interaction with other people, I think, says a lot about what Justin wanted to say, which is just to have, empathy for everyone, even in times that may seem very, very difficult. And Justin really wanted to make sure that this character, that you see the fact that she does really want to help people, but she's just put in a position where she can't. And that's kind of where, the struggle and the frustration comes in, because she's literally being kind of told by her superiors, there's nothing for anyone. You're just sitting here and basically letting people down. And so I think a lot of what I struggled with is how somebody would cope with human beings and robots, because robots at this point in the future have become so intertwined with humanity that sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference between humans and robots. And as you can see, my character has a lot of prejudice towards robots because they've come in and take over. But what we're starting to see now is that robots are also human and also somewhat deserving of empathy as well. So that's something that we hopefully tried to get across, but as well, Justin had the incredible idea. It wasn't initially written into the script. He added it afterwards to kind of add, we didn't necessarily say it was COVID, but there was this element of some disease out there. There are face masks in the film, and he put a glass partition in between me and the people who would be coming into the room. And it was just kind of a nod to what's going on right now, and another obstacle between all of these characters and the ability to kind of see each other as human, just like, how we're all seeing each other through a screen right now. I think that glass pane was very representative of how we're being forced to communicate now, which is via technology, and puts more of a lean on our need for technology as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And, I want to move to Gail Cronauer from Baked Potato Night, because what we're talking about seems to be some more acceptance and some. I apologize. There seems to be some feedback. If I could move to Gail to talk about Baked Potato Night, because we've talked about different perspectives and different societal challenges, and one of them certainly is people who are moving into their twilight years, who are finding themselves in a place where they're looking toward the grand journey, the next grand journey. But these two sisters, who, by the way, your co-star is also very totally fantastic. How were you able to work together? Had you worked with her before? How did you form that sisterly bond?
Actually, Alan Carroll and I have done one short together before. It's still in post somewhere out there. And we played two older friends who go to the movies all the time, especially dirty movies. And that's how they keep themselves alive in their twilight years. And Dallas is a small community, the way that Shreveport or even New Orleans is. So we had run into one another. But Suzanne, the director, wrote the film out of her love for her sister and her hope that as they grew older, their bond would stay as tight as it is now. I have three sisters. Alan has sisters. In fact, I have twin sisters. So I've not been a twin, but I've certainly observed twins a lot. and understand how special that relationship is. My middle sister is the one that I feel closest to. We had a totally different life experience than my two younger sisters, the twins. We're like from a different family. But we have moments when we're so close, and then moments when we're practically on the verge of killing one another. So that's what was so interesting for me in the film, was to explore the whole range of that emotion. But also, I have to say, I'm so grateful that Suzanne wrote two characters who are of a certain age, and they're alive, they're vital, they're playful, they have a sense of humor, they love to eat, they love to drink, they love to get high, they love sex. I mean, they're not dying and demented. And I think it's so important. I mean, I read for so many of those roles, and I think it was so wonderful to have people who are so alive. And Suzanne spoke about this so eloquently in the director's talk, that the film is not about COVID, but it's about the strength of relationships and how easy it is to let them slide, or, well, I'll get around to calling that person or seeing that person at some point. And now we realize how important that is. And thank God we have things like Zoom where we can stay in touch. So for me, the joy of coming together with Alan, each of us embracing, this is a wonderful role, a wonderful situation for these two women, and then just jumping into it, trusting Suzanne, trusting one another, living together when we were working in Shreveport, and having the time of our life doing it. So.
Absolutely, that's a grand journey, and thank you for sharing that story. I'd love to talk to Maggie Crosby about her work on Becky's Big Catch. This is a reprisal of a role that from last year's film R.I.P., which was also a top 20 Louisiana Film Prize contestant. Maggie, what was it like coming back to a role that you had previously portrayed?
Well, it was great because I already had a handle on Becky, and I was so excited that she could come back because I had so much fun doing RIP, and was absolutely thrilled that during a pandemic, quarantining on a farm with my sister, I was able to create and bring Becky back to life. So it was awesome.
And you have a character that you're playing against that doesn't speak. You're carrying the entire conversation, and the entire film, really. You do it with such a snappy, funky, fun way about yourself. As opposed to last film where you had so many other characters that were speaking, and whether they were putting you down or trying to dismiss you or whatever it was. Yeah. What was it like carrying a film entirely by yourself as the dialogue is concerned?
Well, it was challenging, and this happened so quickly that I got the script, I learned it, and then I didn't realize it till the first day that I was going to be the only one talking. So I'm glad I didn't have a chance to worry about it. But I do speak to my dog daily, and he doesn't speak. So I'm kind of used to that. And he has very expressive eyes. And so Bigfoot, thank God I could see his eyes. And just acting, I could just react off of that. So he actually provided so much for me. And I just let Becky go. I just sat there and talked to him and opened my heart and gave her a chance to have a friend. So it was a little daunting, but it worked out. So I'm happy and proud.
Absolutely. Lorna, you have a character that is certainly near and dear to your heart, given that you too are a new mother. And I understand that this film was informed a lot by that experience. As a writer, director, actor, tell us about the development of this character, both in pre-production and during the process of directing yourself on screen.
Okay. So I wrote the story because Film Prize changed the filming boundaries. And I guess I could have written about anything, but my struggle with postpartum depression has been so prevalent. And I guess I wasn't expecting to be hit by it quite as much as I was. And I started showing symptoms before my son was even born. So like I started medicine before he was here. And then I sort of felt like I was okay for a little while, and then I just wasn't. And so now felt like as good a time as any to sort of get that out into the world and sort of off of my chest and talk about it, because even though it's out there and there's a lot of educational materials and people pushing that postpartum depression is this thing and we should take it seriously, there's still a lot of stigma around it. And I still felt, despite having wonderful midwives who were always checking on me and making sure that I was okay, I still didn't feel adequate or accounted for, I guess. And so I just tried to like mold that into this 15 minutes, that feeling of like, there are all of these expectations for you and you're not going to meet all of them. You're not going to do everything perfectly. Things are going to go wrong. And there are people who are going to say, you know, that's life, that's how it goes. But the more important message is that you're allowed to feel those things. You're allowed to feel bad, and you're allowed to feel the things that you're feeling, and nobody can take that away from you. Absolutely. I don't know if I answered any of your questions at all.
I think you did, and we'll certainly get to come back to more discussion about it as we go through the thing. But that's a grand introduction to the character. Let's see. Everything's shifting around. People are moving. The blocks are moving. My system is flawed. I'd love to talk to Darby Taylor too, because we've talked a couple times about people who that society kind of overlooks, and I think that while alcoholism has a little bit more awareness than some others, it's still a very challenging role to portray. And I was hoping that you might be able to. Ken shared a little bit with us last night on the director interview, but hoping that you might be able to help us understand, as a writer and an actress, how you were able to form that character and be sensitive to the topic while still conveying an emotional story.
Oh, sure. Ken loves to get on screen and tell my secrets. I started work on the project last year, and I'm just getting into a long-term relationship. I'm starting to be a part of my boyfriend's family, and I wondered, what happens when that kind of falls apart? If something happens to him, what's my connection to him look like? And I have friends who have substance abuse problems, and I watch them try to work their way through it, and it does feel very personal. It's something that's not affected me, but a lot of the people that I love, and my friends and family. And so I wanted to tell a story where it wasn't just like, well, my dead boyfriend told me to stop drinking, so I'm going to stop drinking, because I think that's too easy. But I wanted it to be a choice that Charlie made for herself. And because it is something you have to make for yourself, other people can't do it for you. You have to decide, what kind of person do I want to be? And does this make me that person? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that does.
But as a writer, it's really hard, because you're kind of giving your baby to the director. And then as an actor, you're also kind of asking the director to anchor you in your performances. So there has to be, I think, a lot of trust in any good relationship between an actor and a director. And it's nice that Ken's my best friend. I mean, he's an absolute mess, but he is my best friend. And it's really great working with him every time we get the chance.
Absolutely. And speaking of choices, and in this case, a choice that maybe was made, that someone else didn't want to make. Terry, Nice to Meet You is a wonderful film that encapsulates this concept of separation, but also acceptance and love on a completely different level when it comes to their relationship. Could you, just for the audience, to remind people what that special relationship is, and then how you were able to kind of muster that character who's going through something like that? I'm not sure if you've all sure been through breakups and things like that, but this is such a unique turn on that. And I wanted you to be able to talk about that, please.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's based on true events from the director, Michael Landry. So it was very close to home. I'm glad he trusted me to play this role of his ex-wife, essentially. And it's a story about a married couple and going through the end of their relationship. And in the end, they decide that you have to be true to yourself. Because when you love someone, you have to, for better or for worse, let them be who they are. And sometimes it doesn't end, you know, with all roses. I think whenever you remember a relationship, it should be the cover of your book should be something beautiful, and all endings of relationships don't have to be so messy. And I think this is a good example of that. Someone told me once that when a relationship ends, it doesn't mean that it failed. It means that you graduated and you're just moving on to something else now. And that stuck with me, but I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. It's all wonderful, and we're gonna definitely dive into more open discussion too, where maybe some more of that can find a home. But I want to talk too about when you're talking about the ending of relationships. Betty, the gazebo is, you have this character who is trying to preserve something of her past, and also trying to help this next generation appreciate what's there, and learn and grow themselves. How did you become connected with this project, and what were you able to draw on to bring to the character when it comes to the letting go of something that happened in the past, or finding a strength to share that with other people?
Well, Chris, Barry and I met. Barry Larson is the writer-director. We met last year in a play that I was doing. And in January, when he sent me the script, I was struck by two things. One, that a man could write a role for a strong, determined woman. So that caught my eye. And then as I looked at the character of Nina, I could relate to her. We're of the same age, similar backgrounds. And so as I developed her character, I really pulled on a lot of personal experiences. And Barry was such a wonderful creative director. He welcomed any ideas in a collaborative way for her to develop her passion. And she is such a determined, passionate woman about what she wants, and we're willing to do whatever she needs to, despite no one helping her. So the frustration was there. The frustration was there that she wanted something that no one would help her with. And that carried a lot of the energy through the play.
Well, and one of the things that is, you mentioned is writing roles for women, and I want to, move to Hattie Haggard to Gobble to talk about her film, which I've got to tell you, as a male, kind of sitting here and listening to the people in my life who are female, who are telling me that this is the biggest inside joke movie of all time, and I have no shame in saying that I don't understand everything, all the jokes that were in it, but appreciate it for the things that I do understand. How did you decide to write that film? And this goes to what Lorna was talking about earlier, where you have these very unique perspectives that the audience may be introduced for the first time, especially in your case. It's such a it's a bathroom topic, not to be on the nose about it. But how did you choose to make this project? And you're also a writer, director, actor. So tell us a bit about that experience for yourself.
Okay. Well, originally just this whole idea came from me trying to think of a fun idea for a choreographically speaking. I liked the song Strangers in the Night by Frank Sinatra, and I thought, what would be a fun prop to use? that isn't predictable, like, in a lot of dance stuff, you see people using chairs or like cocktail tables or, stools or something. And I was like, what would be a really interesting like prop? And I kind of was like going back and forth with my friend. We were kind of making it a game, like what could be really fun. And then I went to the restroom at a restaurant, obviously. And then I was like, oh, it could be strangers in the night, the people who like are, reaching underneath the stall to give you toilet paper or something like that, which, I mean, I'm the kind of person where just things like that happen to me, I feel like all the time, like just not having toilet paper or just being stuck in really awkward situations. And so I had no qualms about when it came to actually producing the movie about sharing those intimate moments. I didn't feel particularly like they were super odd for me, I guess, because they just happened frequently. I don't know if it's why, but it happens that way. And maybe there's a lot of other women who feel like it happens to them too. So anyway, so yeah, film prize came around and I was trying to think of an idea. And then I was like, oh, this could be fun to expand into an actual like storyline. And then the storyline became, most of the movie, and the dance became a really small part of it. And so that's how it evolved. And yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know, like everything that happened in the women's stall is just something that everyone's either thought about, like, and I feel like, running out of the stall and trying to get to the next one before someone sees you is just like an experience, like a kind of a rite of passage for any woman, and it was kind of shocking to me to hear from feedback from men who were like, oh, I don't get it. What's happening, or whatever. And I'm like, how can you not, it's so obvious. So I kind of enjoy being able to share those like little bit of hardships with men too. And I've had some feedback from them going, oh, that's what happens, or that's how you do this, or that's like, and I was like, yeah. So I don't know. It was fun to explore. It's been interesting, like getting feedback both from other females being like, oh yes, that happens to me, or from other men like, whoa, I've never experienced a women's bathroom before. So yeah.
Well, there's a myth around it, and then there's usually like, in our office, there's like a cubby system and like a large mirror and all this stuff, and the guys is like a super cramped thing. So it's a very different experience, at least in my experience. Speaking of awkward situations, Hannah, Thin Slicing is a film about two characters who have very different missions in the night and find themselves kind of clashing and unleashing their very personal perspectives on not only themselves but on your co-star. How did you get brought into the project? Because I know that it was a very last minute, film prize project. And were you familiar with the play beforehand? And I suppose, in that short filming window, how did you, get a chance to really get to know the character and understand her motivations?
Yeah, so I was actually brought into the project by the director and producer, Catherine Ann Taylor. I met her while I was a PA on a set earlier in the year. This was the first project I've ever done. I've never been on film before, like with lines. I've never been able to do this. And so she gave me this awesome opportunity, which I am so thankful for. And so she told me about it months in advance. And then she was like, you know what, we're going to do it. Even with COVID, we're going to try to get this crew together. And it ended up being such a great experience. And regarding like how I settled into the character, I feel like I just challenged myself to be somebody that I wasn't, because the character is not very me personally, but like being able to be there on a set like I've never done before, and just try to be directable and take directions from her point of view, because I know that you mentioned how it was a play originally that she wrote, and so for it to be pared down into this film version, I think in my mind I was like, is there going to be a specific person that she already has in mind for this role, or is it going to be something that I can like delve into myself? And I felt like I was very free to be able to take the role how I wanted, but also take direction from her. And so also with like the co-stars, the crew, it was small because of all the pandemic stuff. And I feel like to have good chemistry with my co-star. And I think that thin slicing itself is not necessarily about like, you know, oh, these two kids, about how like young adults, like we're always analyzing or making snap judgments like, well, this guy doesn't do this. Is he a good suit or whatever? Instead of thinking feelings like their family and loss and love, and just instead of trying to get something from somebody that you want, being able to realize that you can listen to, and you can say, you know, man, I didn't know about your mom. You know, I don't know if you've seen the film yet, but and so I really liked how Kat was able to end this film in such a positive light. The two main characters, they're happy and they understand each other better. They have a deeper connection as opposed to just being on their cell phones all night and, you know, just not actually engaging with another human.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it was an awesome experience.
Yes, and you know, that kind of that understanding of personal pains and struggles leads me to if she's still on, Adela, are you still with us? She's been popping in and out. We'll get to her if she's able to sign back in, but I do want to open up. There's a lot of the films and a lot of these characters deal with understanding perspectives, understanding someone else, being able to sympathize with them. And I would love for you all to pile on and discuss what that means in today's world. I mean, we certainly over the last 6 or 8 months have all been forced, whether through the COVID moment or through civil rights, have been forced to look at ourselves and at society and try to understand what someone else is going through, maybe more than we ever have. And so I wondered if not to like bring it to a grand political space, but just to talk about the perspective that the world is having to go through and how that affects what you're doing as a creative individual.
I have something to say on that, if I could.
Please.
One thing, we did a comedy during this really dark time, which I thought was so necessary. And I have a quote that's from Robin Williams, who's one of my favorite actors. And he said, "Comedy is acting out optimism." And I feel like with our piece, you have these two creatures from different worlds who come together and form this unlikely friendship. And I feel like it shows that there's hope for a better day and people coming together instead of all of this separation. So I hope that people got that when they watched it, had a moment to be happy during all of this darkness. And that was a real important piece of it for us.
Absolutely. Gail?
There you go. I find your question so interesting, Chris, because we're having a discussion right now where we can all see one another, not on a stage setup, but in our homes. So I know you because of what you say, but I also know you because of where you are, what your surroundings are. So it's very intimate. So while we've missed being together, there's a kind of intimacy here that is absolutely incredible. And I think what's going on, I'm on so many Zoom calls that we're having a chance to see into people's lives. And I'm finding that so interesting. I want to say one thing about the film. We shot Baked Potato Night in a retirement home in Shreveport, and I had never been in one. And we had some difficulties with the location. It was kind of touch and go, but to enter into that world is part of what we were creating. And to have the people who live there, the residents, be a part of the film, if not in it, because they're having to sign waivers and everything, to have them be there people creating something in their life was really amazing. So the process of doing the film was eye-opening to me, and it made me realize again how important family is. And I hope I never have to be in a situation like that. And I hope I can stay close to family. We can care for one another so that we can have a graceful last few years of our lives.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a really wonderful perspective. Does anyone else want to add on to the larger? Yeah, Darby?
I was going to say a lot of value in is really Charlie coming to terms with the damage she's done, whether on purpose or on accident, to the relationships in her life. And I think that the thing that I love most about the movie, I was really lucky to have Jennifer Carcillo play Margaret and be such a fantastic scene partner. I mean, she did things with the character I could have never dreamed of. But what was so lovely about it was Charlie kind of takes this opportunity to try to make peace with this woman who just immediately strikes her down and comes back anyway. And that's what I really wanted people to take from the film was people are either acting in love or they're crying out for it. And so, how do you forgive someone who absolutely will not forgive you? And how do you make peace with someone who doesn't want to make peace? And that's what I really wanted people to take away from the movie is that you have to look at other people's hurt manifesting as anger, and you have to decide to, deal with them the way that you would want to be dealt with in that situation. And that's something I really wanted people to walk away from this movie with. And that's all.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's a beautiful sentiment. And it's one that we all, I think, as has been said, that we're all kind of dealing with on one level or another, especially right now. And all the films have this interesting perspective of outside. I mean, even Becky's Big Catch. I mean, somebody who's been ostracized. Granted, she killed a bunch of people, but each of these characters is feeling isolation or pressure from outside forces that are shaping their intent. The floor is open. I'm hoping that we can touch on the representation. It's very plain here too that a lot of the films in the film prize are of a white demographic, and there are people who are needing representation, or if it's a gender representation or a sexuality or gender representation. What is it that you guys are feeling like the world is moving toward right now, given the social challenges that are out there?
I'll go ahead and kind of touch on that, kind of relaying back to the last question too. I think on the surface, a lot of us are kind of tied to social media and like seeing things on the surface, but I think especially with a lot of our films, we're kind of seeing things that are happening under the surface and kind of the internal struggles that everyone's kind of feeling right now. With our film in particular, like my character might be the main character, but we also have a lot of other side characters. Like we have a homeless veteran in there, we have a sex worker in there. And on the surface, that's what they appear to be, but then you kind of see their internal struggles and even the beauty that that they could be harboring inside of them. And I think a lot of people opt to choose not to see those kinds of things. So I'm very thankful that, especially with the films that we have been able to portray, we're able to kind of see not necessarily the beauty, but also the struggle and, everything else underneath that, people might not be, so forthcoming about, if that makes any sense.
It does. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Does anyone else want to chime in on that or the previous question? Betty?
On the previous question, when I was thinking about the gazebo, I think it relates to our current situation of being in a place or a life-changing situation that there is hope, because if you really want it, if you really value it, that's what motivates you. Nina was alone in her struggle, but she was so passionate about preserving something that was good for her and important to her. And she used that strength through all of the disappointments of people not helping or not understanding or not being available. She was really alone. And I think this pandemic has emphasized that aloneness to us. And what do you do with that aloneness? Do you succumb to it or give into it? Do you say, woe is me, or do you use it and say, what good can I get out of this? How can I get what I want? And that was Nina's main drive. How can I get what I want? And some of the things that she did were not very acceptable, but to her it was. Her perspective was, what I want is so important that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I think that that's the kind of motivation that gets most of us through hard times, whether it's pandemic or relationship or health issues. You've got to have that drive of really wanting what you're after.
Absolutely.
I love the cross-generational relationship that forms between you and the young man, Betty. I just think that's so great. I mean, we have this sense of there are old people and then there are young people and never the twain shall meet. And I just love that they found a common ground. And I think that's something that happens in a lot of the films, is that there are unexpected relationships. I have to say, Lorna, that the relationship between your character and her husband was like absolutely breathtaking. He did an amazing job. And I mean, I feel that even someone like the bartender in Nice to Meet You was such an amazing person to come in and make that comment to you about, so glad you're back. And then to have that, well, congratulations, or, you know, whatever, best wishes, condolences. I think that all of the films reflect a sense of being sensitive to where people are at and doing the best you can to deal with not only your past, because we all the characters have histories, and not present, but also looking to the future. I wrote a comment in the chat. I loved that none of the women were victims. I mean, they all are having difficult times, but none of them are victims. They're all survivors. And I absolutely love that. So kudos to the writers.
Yay! That was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved that.
That's such a great observation. And I gotta say that not only do I agree with that, but to add on to it, all at what you said and to accentuate it, is all of these characters feel like they have so much more than what's on screen. And I can't say that for every short film that has been through the Film Prize or that I've seen out in the world. And so congratulations to all of you for bringing that depth. And I know that there are other people to thank behind that, but you know, each of your turns was true to that character's past and who they were striving to be going forward, which I think is something that is present in all of these films. I've actually got Adela, who's joined us again. Perhaps, Adela, are you there? Thought I could get her.
Hello?
Hello, Adela.
My phone died.
Oh gosh. I'm so glad you were able to join us again. I wondered if you might, we're going to circle back to you. I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, or did we do that with you?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your character, Miss Blue, in the film Miss Blue. I got to say, when I first saw the poster and when I first saw the clips and everything, I had no idea that that you were going to be having a conversation with, you know, for spoiler alert, with a cat.
Mr. Oscar.
Mr. Oscar. First off, it was a beautiful movie, and you did a really fantastic job on your performance. But you too, like some of the other folks in the chat today, were having to act against, you know, someone who couldn't give you back maybe what you were giving them because of it was a cat or it was a robot or whatever else. Could you tell us about your experience meeting that character and bringing it to life?
Miss Blue represents an elderly woman, which I'm pleased in the festival that there's several, like the baked potato night, you know, in the gazebo. Women of a certain age were on screen. With Miss Blue, she's a typical New Orleans, sitting on the porch, dope hopping, as we call it, lady who starts to think about her state of affairs, but in spite of the perceived loneliness, there's this, as she says, nobody's going to steal my joy. That she finds a place that she can go internally. So in filming the piece, Mr. Oscar did not make an appearance on set until about 4:30. I was there for 9. But of course, that was a safety measure too. But I played to literally a rock. There was a rock that was placed in different positions, and I actually just related to that rock. But I saw this this fine older man named Mr. Oscar, who I hadn't seen in a while, coming. And there's a thing in terms of the process. This is actually the cat. And I guess many people are like close to their animals and have nobody or nothing else to talk with but their cat. So Mr. Oscar, even with his big old fat belly and cheating on me, was a positive force and a way for this woman to rise above the potential loneliness.
Well, and that's, you've touched on that loneliness topic again, which while you were gone, we were talking about the times that we live in, not just the struggles of whether it's wearing a mask or needing to stay home or what have you, but just that connecting with other people in new ways, understanding the social dilemma that's out there. Sorry, that was not a plug for the Netflix movie, but I guess now it is. Your character is working through a lot of different things, and I was wondering if you might be able to shed some light on your perspective, having played Miss Blue, and as an actress in general, what it's like to work nowadays and portray characters that are in search of that connection or that resolution for things that are going on in their lives.
Well, for one thing, because of the present situation, you find yourself not interacting with other actors. Do it via Zoom or whatever. Or I just recently did a production of Swimming Upstream, which Eve Ensler of the Vagina Monologues helped to put together based upon the writings of New Orleans women after the storm. And we gathered at Ashe Cultural Center, but it was 6 feet distance in terms of the way it was set up. And it was a videotape, as opposed to, being there. Actually, it was a virtual thing, but it came out all right. But you have to, with the situation, you really have to draw upon your reserve. I come from theater years ago, and I draw upon, Uta Hagen's sense of memory and all a lot. And I think during this pandemic, I might be a little crazy because I draw upon my imagination a lot and sense memory and pull feelings. Because I live alone, and but I have a good time. There are days when I'm in the house and I do eyebrows. Should see my Frida Kahlo look, and I've taken to cooking. So I bake bread, and I do these lovely meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I plate them beautifully and I put them on Facebook so you get a meal with a message. And that sort of helps me to connect. And that's the thing. We don't have that human interaction where you can actually reach out and touch somebody. You know, these elbow bumps and air hugs.
Well,
Kind of need wanting, you know.
Yeah, and I think that we are all, very excited about, one day being able to get back into those spaces. But, as we're, not to jinx it or anything, but I'm hoping that we're closer to the end than the beginning of that. But while we're in it, to take stock of what we're feeling right now and how we're able to reach out to others, I think is going to be really important to the future of our society. And so I appreciate your contribution to that with posting wonderful messages. I'd like to go back to the group, and I want to talk about what you guys are working on next, whether it's a project that you have just recently completed or something that you're looking forward to in the future, whether it's film or stage or some other personal project that you're working on. I'd love to know where you are and where you're going. Maybe we can start with Gail Krunauer.
Right. Well, I have a film on Amazon Prime now called The Vast of Night, which we actually shot in 2016, which has become this amazing sensation this last spring. So that's been very exciting to see that actually make it. I mean, the filmmaker, Andrew Patterson, was so devoted to getting everything just right. A low budget indie that has just really taken off. So I'm thrilled with that. I had a film called One of These Days, which was supposed to be at South by Southwest the weekend that the country shut down. And it's been at the Berlin Film Festival, and we'll see if it makes it this side of the Atlantic. I don't know. But what I'm working on right now, besides floating on what's happened in the past, there's a monologue challenge that has been created by a local actor, director, producer, and writers are writing monologues, submitting them, actors are being paired, and we're shooting them in our homes. And I've done one and plan to do another. So finding little things like that to stay creative, to stay alive. I love what Adela said about posting meals. I've been going out every day and taking a picture of one beautiful thing in my life, whether it's a tree or a plant or a shadow or something. And that's, I feel like it's developing my eye, but it's also making me appreciative of what I'm experiencing here. And I've got some new things that I'm doing. I've been taking online courses. Yale Free University has been a great source for me. There was a fantastic course on African American history that blew my mind and opened it up to so many things. And I'm studying eurythmy, which is kind of metaphysical, but it's really cool. So I'm just looking for ways to keep myself alive and growing.
Absolutely. It sounds like you've got a lot on your plate. So thank you for sharing that.
Right.
Terry, what do you got going on?
Hey, well, I'm actually in talks. So the director of Nice to Meet You, Michael Landry, and his partner, Brandon Haynes, they're actually shooting a short this weekend. They're amazing. They're good friends of mine, and we're in chats of doing what's next. We want to all work together again because it was such a great union. Whenever you work with your friends, it's just such a good time. And you make magic together. But so hopefully something with that next. Trying to be good to myself in the meantime, a lot of nature, hanging out with my dog. But, I've never been interested in writing ever until less than a week ago. I decided that there's just not enough queer roles, not enough good gay roles. And I just, I want to get to work on that. I have a few ideas have popped into my head this past week. And I'm like, okay, Terry, you really need to do something about this. So I think that's my calling lately. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's such a great point. My partner is Pan, and she was kind of bemoaning the challenges of representation where you have you have certain tropes, you have certain personality types that are present, and what was really interesting about the films that did have representation this year were different in their perspectives, or they were critical of a culture that was too focused on one thing or another, like with Inapplicable. And so I appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing what comes of it. Melissa, what about you?
I'm actually working on a short film in a few hours. So that's exciting. To have anything right now, to be doing anything right now feels really good. So yeah, I'm in Knoxville right now, and I'm working on it's kind of like a family horror. It has very like Haunting of Hill House type feel to it. So I'm excited about that. But otherwise, just kind of reiterating, I think what other people have said, just kind of like floating along and riding the wave and trying not to drive myself insane. I think one of the things that has been really cool about all of this, and Gail kind of mentioned this as well, is that there are so many more opportunities for classes right now. I mean, you can take classes with, people across the country. I've been in acting. I've taken a couple different acting classes, either in New York or LA, and there will be people from Germany and France and London who are participating in these classes that before they didn't have access to. So that's been something that I've really, really enjoyed getting to do during this time, because I mean, in Georgia, I don't have access to those either, but it's been really, really amazing to see how it's bringing the entire world together in a way, from so far out. It's really cool.
Fantastic. And I do love a good horror, so please let the group know when that's available to see and where it's available to see. Adela, what are you working on coming up, or do you have anything in the works? I think we might have to get you to unmute.
I can't see that. I can't see. So little blue lines, and then my assistant just said unmute. What was the question?
The question is, are you working on anything right now, or do you have any projects coming up?
Right now, I'm doing fundraising for a documentary called A Head Full of Stories and Dreams. And it's about the generational impact of Adela the storyteller on the New Orleans community. And I am Adela the storyteller. And I've been Adela the storyteller when I returned to the city from Boston and started working in the schools doing creative drama with the kids. I then found that storytelling was a way to, that it was a spirit lifting medium, of exchange, which renews imagination and human interaction. And right now, God, we can use stories, and that's what the film industry is all about, telling stories. And I had not heard of the Prize Fest, and oh my God, I'm a fan now. I'm gonna make a short film, that I would like to enter into competition. But I will be watching and watching. And any of these wonderful directors who need an actress of a certain age, give me a call. I'm willing to work with you.
Fantastic. You compliment followed by a pitch for yourself. Thank you so much for that. Alicia, what about you? What have you got going on, or what's coming up next?
Trying to unmute. You know, before we shot this, I had sort of decided I didn't know if I was really interested in acting anymore at the beginning of this year. And then the pandemic hit. And then Eva called me about this script, and she's a friend. And so I was like, well, yeah, of course I want to do it. just want to work with you. And then, you know, it just turned into something beautiful, and getting you know, doing well in the festival and getting a nomination is just like, it just really touches me. So I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm trying to just see what comes to me and if things are meant for me. This is such a weird time and a weird industry to begin with. So in the meantime, I'm just being a mom of 3, and I'm housebreaking 2 puppies, and I'm promoting a feature film that I executive produced starring the amazing Terry Weibel called Lost by You. You can all rent it now on Amazon and iTunes, and I'm very proud of that. So we'll see. I don't know, to answer your question.
Well, I got to tell you, Lost by You is definitely worth checking out. Of course, Brian and Natalie are both Film Prize veterans, so we're so excited to see them continue to grow and expand that that filmmaking body that they're doing. So, and of course, Natalie's an amazing cinematographer, and Brian's an amazing director. So, check that out if you get a chance, folks. So, Hillary, what about you? What are you working on? What do you got going on next?
I guess kind of existing like everybody else. As of right now, I'm taking in all the Prize Fest stuff. I'm excited about Music Prize. I really enjoyed Fashion Prize yesterday. That was so much fun to witness and be a part of. As of right now, I don't have anything planned. I did, however, this past summer take an acting class after working on our film. That's actually where I met Miss Betty. So it's really awesome getting to see her in the Zoom with us. So hopefully next year, if Film Prize, continues, maybe be a part of a few projects. But as of right now, I'm just kind of, going through life and, taking it all in.
Understood. Thank you so much. Hannah.
Hey. So my next little steps that I'm doing, I am actually still in school. So I'm trying to finish my degree at LSU. I have a theater film degree, and so a lot of my training is based in theater, but over the last 4 years now, I've been trying to become more well-versed in the film industry. And so I'm just going to be keep trying to find some work, beating the bushes, hopefully find an agent working locally in Louisiana in the film industry. And I also love the technical side, like directing and producing. Like I've created some of my own, shorts with equipment from my film degree's office. And so I love costuming. Like this semester I'm working on as a costume designer on a live theater show. And so I just want to be able to get to know as much as I can and get as much knowledge and experience as possible. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be done with school in May. So yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I can't hear.
I did it. I was the one that did it this time. I've been on so many of these Zooms, I feel like amateur when I don't forget to unmute. So we're excited to see you complete your studies and what comes next. So please feel free to share links to your live productions and things like that to the group. And let's turn now to Hattie Gobble. What do you have going on now? What are you doing next?
Well, Chris, I don't know if you know, but there's been a global pandemic. And right now it was a struggle just to try to get this film made and get it turned in on time. So right now I'm just kind of celebrating having Strangers in the Stall completed and trying to figure out what to do next. I wish I could tell you I have my life together and everything that I have planned, but honestly, all the plans of this year have just, kind of gone down the toilet. So keeping my head up would be number one. I would like to explore with each new film I do. I feel like, oh, okay, this is something I feel really confident in. This is something I need to work on. And something that I'd really like to learn more about in the future is just the actual like cinematography, like being behind the camera. So probably something I'm going to get to work on. We tried to do a little bit of work on a Super 8 with film stock. So I'm going to try to explore a little bit more with that. Obviously, that did not come out in this film, but maybe we'll see some of that in the future. So that's my game plan for now.
Awesome. I love that exploration and kind of trial and error. It's important to explore without necessarily a deadline and that sort of thing too. So best of luck with that. Betty, what about you?
Thank you.
Have a couple of irons in the fire. Before the pandemic hit, I was in a very, very active senior acting class with Mary Joris at Shreveport Little Theater, and we're hoping to resume that quickly. We were planning to develop a Follies show with Mary. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm writing a short play, probably a one act, that I have maybe one great thought about it every day. So it's slow coming together, but I like it. And I may have it as a stage act or film it for next year's competition, Chris.
I was hoping that you would say that because I know you had emailed me about what was possible there. So I look forward to that.
And the other thing that I have tentative plans, Shreveport has numerous wonderful theaters, but I have a plan and I'm working with some really talented people to think about a feminist theater for the area, featuring works by, for, or about women. So that's an exciting thing for me to think about. So those three things and my poodle keep me pretty busy.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing what comes of that. And of course, as always, please let us know when you do have something developed. Lorna, how about you? We just missed the baby. Been sitting there.
Yeah, he's around here somewhere. We are actually finalizing I guess we can call it, here he is. Come here.
Oh, look, he's walking.
Yeah, come be a star. Here you go.
Oh,
hi there.
We are finalizing the director's cut, if you will, of Untitled Post-Baby Project. We had to cut quite a few scenes from the film prize version of it. And so we are getting that longer version squared away and ready to submit to festivals. So, and then he makes a year on November 3rd. So I'm trying to have a little costume party for him on Halloween for his birthday, since, since I'm trying to do all the mom stuff and I'm yielding to societal pressures about that kind of thing. So that's what we're doing.
Fair enough. Thank you for that. How about you? How about Maggie? How about you next?
Okay, sorry. Hi. Well, like a few people have said, I'm not 100% sure of my next move. I know that I'm completely obsessed with the Louisiana Film Prize and would absolutely love to be doing another film for next year. I'm very interested in horror right now, and this thought of doing a horror movie really, really, really excites me. Maybe it's because Halloween's coming up. So that's got my cogs turning, and I'm excited about the future. Most important right now is just keeping myself and my family healthy, mentally and physically. That's my job, and still basking in the glow of this film prize and all the fun. And I just want to say to all of the women that are here today, you all inspire me so much. You were amazing in your work and your films, and I'm honored to be on this panel with you today. So thank you. And thank you, Chris.
Of course. Now, before we go to Darby, I want to throw out that we're going to do a lightning round right here at the end. Just like one sentence for someone who is an aspiring performer, or what advice would you give to someone who is an aspiring performer to jump in and take on a character for the first time? So, but before we do that, Darby, what are you working on and what's coming up next?
Hi. Ken, again, blew the top on all my interesting surprises I was going to reveal, but I am working on a first novel. I'm very young and very inexperienced and probably not good enough to be doing that, but you know, hey, go boldly. I have an idea for a screenplay that's kind of bubbling around, but I don't want to talk about it yet till I think it kind of shows itself to me a little bit better. I really have been surprised how much I've really enjoyed writing. Enjoyed writing the screenplay, and I think I'd like to do that more often. And you know, there's the adage, if you don't like the roles you're being given, well, write yourself one. You know, so that feels really good. And yeah, I want to echo what Maggie said, that it feels so good to be in such incredible company, to watch these performances from women that I aspire to be like, and you know, women of all ages and experiences. And it's just really, really nice to be here and to be in such a great group. Class of 2020.
Film Prize Actress Nominee Class of 2020. All right, so here we go. Lightning round. Just one quick moment of advice for an aspiring or up-and-coming performer that you would pass down to them. Let's start with Adela Gautier. Oh, Adela, we can't hear you.
Hello?
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Hear me now? Let's trust and embrace our creativity.
Nice.
That's wonderful. Okay, Lorna.
Me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Don't be afraid to feel things. That's how you know it's real, is by feeling things. You're muted.
Hannah, one piece of advice.
I would say always come prepared and be directable and be ready for the day. Have a good attitude.
Awesome. Thank you. Alicia.
I would say don't be afraid to fail.
That's
Awesome. Short and sweet. Hillary.
If you are questioning whether or not you should do it anyway.
Awesome. Betty.
I would just say, take a risk to get out of your comfort zone. Mostly surround yourself with people who are supportive and encouraging.
All right. Terry.
I think it's all in the eyes. Don't feel like you have to show it. Sometimes it just works if you just feel it.
Fantastic. Gail.
Trust yourself, embrace your imagination, and stay open.
Perfect. Melissa.
Don't overthink it. Just trust your gut.
Good one. Maggie.
Don't be afraid to try new things and to put yourself out there, and always bring yourself to the part. Put some of you in there. That's what makes it special.
Great. Darby.
Fight for your work, fight for your friends, and keep showing up.
Patty.
Always check to make sure there's toilet paper before you use the toilet. And no, but really, if there seems to be like a risk that's a little bit too big or a project that's too big, then it's probably the perfect size for you. So anyway.
Awesome. Did I miss anybody? Anybody have anything they want to throw out there before we leave? We're going to do a big Viva la Film Prize right here at the end. I'm going to bring us up all on screen so that everybody can see all the faces. So if there's nothing else, we're going to count down we're going to do a 1, 2, 3 Viva la Film Prize, and we're going to do that starting now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Viva!
the prize!
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We have the music prize going on right now. You can click over there, and then at 4 o'clock we have the acting panel, and votes are due tomorrow, Sunday 11th at 11:59 p.m. for both the Film Prize films and for your performance ballots. So don't forget to fill those out. Until then, we'll see you later. Best of luck and Viva la Prize Fest.